The Abercrombie Kids Summer Sale is in full swing, with up to 50% off select styles for the season. Summer plans, vacation, and camp days are all covered, with new dresses, shorts, tees, and swim. Abercrombie Kids has the summer staples they need and the looks that they want to wear. Shop in-store, online, or in the app. Offer applies to select styles as indicated. Discount applied at checkout online.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile. It's the podcast where we walk home from the movies. Today we're going to see 28 years later, the long-awaited and unexpected sequel to 28 Days Later, which we saw last week on this very podcast, didn't we?
So go listen to us reviewing that if you'd like to hear it. And I feel like it's really got me pumped for this film. I'm really excited for it. And we're like a bit late. We're kind of going to see this a few days after everyone else. So there's so much buzz around it. I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm very excited because this is the best trailer of the year.
Yeah, it's
So
brilliant.
far, anyway. For sure. I love this trailer. It's putting out a vibe.
The trailer looks brilliant, and I think the speculation around what's actually going to be in the film is interesting because the trailer gives so little away.
Cillian Murphy, zombie skeleton.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to go and see it now, and we'll review it when we're out.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't look at what's in front of you. Booze, 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 moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war. If your eyes drop, they will get the top of you. Booze, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war.
Hi, we're back. We've seen 28 years later. I got it, nailed it. If it's your first time here at the Cinemile, we won't spoil this movie until we get to Spoiler Street, at which point we will, of course, spoil the movie, because that's how Spoiler Street works.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy,
Yeah?
how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
You okay? It's been 28 years.
This movie, I found it incredible. It was so stylish, and we talked a lot about when we were reviewing 28 Days Later last week. We talked a lot about how a lot of the kind of editing techniques really show that it's a noughties film. But I love in this, I feel like he's kind of carried through the same feeling,
Well,
albeit it's much more modern.
You said last week something which some of our patrons really liked as well, and I agree with that 28 Days Later feels like a music video in a lot of ways.
Yeah, a lot of the scenes feel like that.
I think this movie kind of does in
It
some
captures that
parts
vibe.
as well, yeah.
Like it feels like a true, honest sequel. And I know there was the 28 Weeks Later that nobody's talking about and pretending it never happened.
This movie pretends it never happened, by the way, in the opening title crawl.
So basically, I found it very frenetic. I found the kid actor incredible. The cast was stunning. The setting was amazing. There's this kind of, and we're not on spoilers yet, but there's this island
Is
setting.
that real island?
I
I'm
don't
dying to
know.
Google
With the
it.
land, with the bridge to the land that comes and goes in high tide.
So cool.
That everything that happened on that bridge was phenomenal. And Jodie Comer and Aaron Taylor Johnson, love to see them as well. So yeah, I was very into it. What about you?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I was really impressed. I have some issues with it. I'll talk about it in Spoiler Street. That very divisive ending. We're falling on one side of it.
The ending, like I know people are like it's a Marmite ending. The ending, frankly, just left me very, very confused.
Yeah, same.
And
Not good confused.
And there's a scene right before the last scene that if it ended there, I would have loved that ending.
Let's save that. We'll park
Yeah.
that. We'll get into it. But I thought the world building in this was excellent. If anything, I didn't get enough of it. I loved how it just centered on the family dynamics of a son and a father and a mother. I think this film has a lot of interesting things to say about masculinity.
Yeah, it does.
And there, I thought the evolution of the infected, they're not zombies, of course.
They're zombies.
Was very
Let's call a
interesting.
spade a spade.
Like, we'll talk about the Moorings, but you were not allowed to call them zombies. Let's talk about that more in Spoiler Street as well, because the
that was
specifics around that were
interesting.
super cool and
Yeah,
interesting.
very cool.
Like, they're almost like a separate species. It was like watching a nature documentary.
It
at some
was,
point.
yeah. That was really. I'm really glad we rewatched 28 Days Later, because I think they work so well as a double viewing.
Yeah, I
They really
don't
work
think it's
together.
essential.
No,
I think if
it's
you're
not.
listening to this and you haven't seen, because a few of our patrons were asking it, if you haven't seen it in 20 years, you don't need to have watched it.
But
really.
I do recommend. I feel like it's fun to watch them together.
They do work well,
Yeah.
obviously, as a pairing. So yeah, and I think, like you said, I thought there was points, particularly in the first half of the movie, where there was a lot of really interesting montage style stuff happening. Like, you were getting montages between this father and son going on a mission. The zombies the infected, at a different point at nighttime. Stuff that hadn't happened yet and was
Yeah.
being mashed together, and then historical war
that was
footage,
confusing me.
which is I thought it was cool, and then all to the backdrop of that Rudyard Kipling poem, which was in the trailer. So it created this, like, I think you said, like a music video vibe and
Yeah.
feeling, which I thought was really cool. But I would still be hesitant to slam dunk recommend this to people, because I think this movie is divisive. I know some people who had not enjoyed this at all, who loved 28 Days Later. We heard a lot of grumbling in the cinema coming out of this.
I have to say, there was like a young teenage girl, and she was like, "That's the worst thing I've ever seen." And then her
So-
teenage boyfriend was like, "That's because you haven't seen the original." And I was like, "Oh God, these teenage boys are still mansplaining movies to women."
I don't think that's the case. I think there's people who will have liked the original who won't like this for whatever reason. Your feelings are legitimate, strange teenage girl.
But I think if you listen to our podcast and you're now listening to this review, you're probably in the sphere of people who
still might not
who
like
will
it.
like this movie.
And I'd like to hear from you.
You probably know what you're getting, you know.
I'd like to hear from you over at thecinemile@gmail.com or at thecinemile on Instagram, YouTube, Letterboxd, or TikTok, or come over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/thecinemile, where we do monthly retro club movies. We just watched Videodrome. You get to pick what we watch.
Videodrome was
Next.
also a great pairing with this, I think.
You did?
It's just a good vibe.
I suppose, yeah, interesting, weird vibes.
We've been watching some weird vibes lately. Anyway, right, I really want to talk about spoilers, so you might hear a quick break and then...
What does every USAA member have in common? Family. We're one big family who supports the military community and their eligible families. And if you, your parent, or spouse served, you could join our family and save big on auto insurance. Visit USAA.com/join today to check your eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
We'll be back.
Okay, so spoilers now for 28 years later, and I guess 28 weeks later, and I guess 28 days later.
I haven't even seen 28 weeks later, so...
Well, the movie, the opening title of this spoils that movie by saying, first, Britain was infected with the virus. Then it got to mainland Europe, which is the end of 28 weeks later. Mm-hmm. But then we quickly fixed that, and it went back to Britain, as if nothing had ever happened.
I love the absolute shade from Danny Boyle as well around that.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen interviews with Danny Boyle, you know, where he's like, he keeps like making references to trilogies, but he ain't referencing 28 weeks later.
Yeah, this would be the closing part of that trilogy. No, he's like, no. Now's the trilogy. It starts here, drawing the line.
So is the trilogy he's teasing, is this the first movie
Yes,
in that
it's the
trilogy?
first movie of a trilogy. The first two have been shot back to back.
Right.
And the second one is coming out in January of 2026. In 6, 7 months.
Okay, and we'll speak about the ending at the end, but I think he's let himself down with being too concerned with teeing up the next film
Correct,
instead of
I agree.
finishing this film. But first,
Totally agree.
I want to talk about the incredible world building
Oh my God.
of this family in this island, and we were immediately kind of introduced to Jodie Comer's like extreme headaches and mood swings, and the young boy trying to navigate the kind of tension between his parents, And then Aaron Taylor-Johnson being this kind of big alpha male who's forcing his son to come off the island to hunt zombies, even though we
2
learned
years earlier than he
that it's
should.
earlier than he should be doing it. So that's all just brilliant character stuff, isn't it? And we learned that all in such a frenetic, interesting way. Like, it's not explained to us. We're even just, he's making him the bacon for breakfast, but then the boy brings the bacon up to his mom.
Because bacon's a delicacy. It's
and
a
who
rare
cares
treat.
about who here? Like, the dad's trying to feed his son up, to go off killing, but the son's trying to build his mom's strength because she's unwell. And that love between the son and his mom is kind of what drives the film. And that was very unexpected for me. I wasn't expecting, because the adventure with Aaron Taylor-Johnson and his son was so thrilling.
Oh my God, I actually think...
And then the
I
stuff
think
with
the
his mom
first-
was so tender, so I think that kid drove the whole film.
Yeah, the film and Danny Boyle ask a lot of this actor, this young actor.
If they didn't cast a kid this good, the whole film falls apart.
I agree, and I think he was very good.
Yeah.
I think this is so interesting. You've put it really nicely there, because the film is in two halves, and I think it's saying something. I think Alex Garland is clearly saying something here about masculinity, because it's about this boy who's literally on the cusp of manhood. He almost picks up the Power Ranger toy to bring with him, but leaves it behind.
I know.
Bit of a ham-fisted metaphor for leaving your childhood behind.
No, but
perhaps.
I like that, because I've
But-
seen that lately with one of our kids, where he'll just be like, actually, I don't need a teddy, and I'll go, really?
Yeah, and you get this. So he's on the cusp of manhood. He's got this role model in his father, who is, as you said, sort of pressing him towards this traditional, like he's celebrating the violence.
I mean, his dad's an alpha. Like, we know what's happening to that dad if he turns into a zombie.
And the word,
he's an alpha
the
zombie.
word alpha, I think, is used very deliberately
Yeah.
in this movie when it comes to the infected, right? And this whole idea, just in terms of a sort of an entertainment point of view, of these alpha zombies,
Oh, it's incredible.
who are terrifying and can. I found that a brilliant and clever evolution of the zombie.
It was so clever. And then the other zombies are like, they've
They're scary.
taken steroids and they're like really engorged.
Yeah, it was weird.
So interesting. And like when we first see what the alpha does, which is like rips heads and spines off, and then we see Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who up until that point has been laughing his head off, like loving the zombie hunt. He panics and he's like, we need to go, but because they've so cleverly set up the water rising and that you can't get back over the bridge
Oh my God,
again.
that bridge scene was incredible.
When the zombies chasing them down the bridge scene, I was like, this is Game of Thrones level excellent.
It was
So
thrilling.
epic.
And also just like Game of Thrones, I think the dad could die here.
Yeah.
Maybe the son could die. I don't know. I felt like anything could happen.
It was so good.
So interesting. And then what happens is they both survive barely. And then
they cut it with the party, and that's the editing thing. We almost see the party happening before we see them fully get in the
Yes.
gate, and it's very intriguing because it throws you, and you're like, what's happening? And then you realise they're celebrating them, and then Aaron Taylor-Johnson's just lying about his son's abilities, and the son's like, I didn't do that. And it just sets up the son to be like, my dad is a liar.
he's a disappointment
and
as well.
I don't trust him when he tells me about my mom.
Yeah.
And
Which sets up the stakes for Act
Oh,
2.
it's so good because he even sees the dad cheating on the mom.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so interesting because Jodie Comer, aside from like a brief outburst at the beginning, she's fairly absent. And I was thinking, God, she's such a great actress. Like, she's not been given much to do. And then the son basically like kidnaps her and brings her to the mainland to find this doctor figure.
Now,
it was fascinating.
This is the point where I bet a lot of the audience were like the movie lost them, because you could easily look at that and say, this is stupid, you're being stupid, what are you doing, this is stupid. But I think the movie
No,
does enough
I think it set it
to
up.
sell, and it does have to do it a little bit quickly. I think a lot of this bit, from him experiencing the dad's lies, to him seeing he's having an affair, to him holding a knife to his dad's throat, I did feel is a little accelerated.
No,
but I will
because-
forgive the movie for that, because it has to kind of get there.
But also we saw how protective the boy is of his mom at the beginning when
That's
he did the
true, yeah.
bacon. So
Yeah.
to me, that showed, I'd say, the boy. And we kind of nearly saw Aaron Taylor-Johnson like rolling his eyes as he went up to the stairs to her at the beginning. So I feel like the boy's always acting as that in between his parents, but he loves his mom so much and he knows his dad's a bit of an asshole. So that, but like the dad protecting him and them sleeping in the house together and all that, like it was very, like, you could also see the dad really loves him. So I think the film showed us But like it's in how
Yeah,
much
I
do you
don't
love
think
your
I don't
son?
think it's easy to say. It's dismissive and easy just to say, "Oh, the dad's an asshole."
No, to
That's
his
him.
mom.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
the thing.
But there's something. There was an interesting moment later on when he lies on the bed next to the mother, just the two of them,
Mm-hmm.
and this is just body language, which they sold was that there's just a distance between them. Something has for whatever
Well, and
reason
we learn,
there was no tenderness there.
She has brain cancer,
yeah,
and
but he would know. That's the other
he
thing.
knows.
He would know. So
But
he
she
is
said-
dealing with the
she
terminal.
said everyone knows, and we should have told you.
Yeah.
She says that to her son.
Which is another thing. I'm just putting myself in the shoes of the teenage girl you overheard, right?
Uh-huh.
Whereas just like that, I think if you can't get on board with that, that would just be frustrating.
Yeah, but see,
because
this
this
is-
whole movie relies on they never told him that she has terminal brain cancer.
No, but this
right?
is where we-
even though we as the audience all know it.
This is where we need Vox Pops. Because for all we know, that girl didn't like it because it was too gruesome.
Yeah, sure.
You don't know why that one
Why
girl
aren't
I
we
know-
interviewing that one girl who is key to understanding the other side of this?
But anyway, when
movies?
he's on the mission with his mom, I love all the stuff of the pilot who's landed in on them, and he ends up kind of helping them.
See, okay.
That was fun. I think it broke the tension of the film where we needed it to be broken.
I suppose it did. I was about to ask what purpose did it serve, and I suppose you're right. It did do that. However, I agree. It was a fun distraction, and it kind of they pumped a lot of comedy into those moments.
Like
this
when
fish
he-
out of water stuff.
when he's carrying her, and eventually he puts her down, and then she has a turn, and she's totally fine. She starts walking. He goes, "She can walk."
Yeah, that was. I mean, there was a lot of suddenly funny,
Yeah.
and you're right. It did break the tension.
And when he showed, I liked the commentary on the fact that they are just fully leading a completely normal life, and
Yeah, he's like he was driving a taxi. He has an iPhone. I mean, I love this idea that Britain has, and Ireland, by the way, we saw a map. No mention of Ireland.
dare
But Ireland,
they?
Ireland. There is at one point Ireland is in the quarantine zone as well.
Yeah, thanks, lads.
Thanks, movie, for not even saying UK and the Republic of Ireland have been quarantined. We're here too.
Well,
Cillian
yeah.
Murphy's from here.
Well, I say
so-
he's long dead in this anyway.
So there's a lot of rumours of him being seen. They shot the other film at the same time.
Yeah, but
so
we thought
he's
he was
probably
that
going to
really-
show up in that.
We all thought he was that really skinny zombie from the trailer.
Well, that's clearly not him, yeah. But I love that idea of Britain being quarantined, and and you don't know what the world looks like outside or its attitude to it, except there's mention of quarantine vessels patrolling.
Well, he
I think it's
says-
awesome idea.
I liked him being there because he explained, the boy said, "Oh, someone will come rescue you." He said, "No, no
Yeah.
one's going to rescue me."
I
Once you
just
get there, he said, we tried everything we could not to land on shore.
let me just get. Yeah, he knows it's a death sentence for him.
And also, sorry, can I say I loved social commentary when he shows, he's like,
His
"This
girlfriend,
is my girlfriend,"
yeah.
and the boy's like, "Oh, she's had an allergic reaction."
Yeah, it's funny.
Because if you'd never, we've all grown very used to Instagram filters, aesthetic injections, but if you had never seen them, it would be very confusing.
I just felt it was, I don't know, it was funny, perhaps a little too funny, and I also think we got a very interesting scene with him and pretty good action scene with him and all his colleagues where they all get killed, but and then it's him, and then he also gets killed. So it felt like there was nothing to grip onto there. It was
Yeah, but it's
kind of
kinda
meaningless. He was a nothing character.
But they're showing us the military stuff as well.
Sure, it gave us a little glimpse of some world building and broke the tension, but I'm like, I don't know. I think the movie could have done without it.
On to Jodie Comer and Ray Fiennes and that whole skull thing.
This is
That was
super
amazing,
interesting. I
yeah.
thought Ray Fiennes brings a lot of
He's so
pathos
good.
to this.
I was thinking, the last time I saw this man, he was running a conclave, and now here he is covered in iodine.
Love that. I
Yeah.
love when he what brilliant movie entrance. Firstly, so the little coming out to this alpha and again, as you said, this is shorthand for this man is in control
Yeah.
of this world. He can control these alphas. He can calm
Why
them
doesn't
down.
he kill them though? That's the bit I didn't understand. Does he only have?
He names them, which what does that tell you?
I guess
He has a
observing them.
respect for the
The
infected.
alphas are just so dangerous to other humans, though.
But he's somebody who is a doctor. He's got respect for life. We never see him killing or murdering anyone. He
I
seems
know.
to be surviving. Now, where's he getting all this morphine? Why did he have
That's what I was
endless supplies of
wondering.
morphine? And sorry, another thing which drove me absolutely bonkers was whatever about him blow darting the boy to
Love
calm
that.
him down But then, like, stop blow darting. Just, when he walks into the distance with Jodie Comer, who is a completely willing and on board with this, don't stand 10 feet behind her and blow dart.
But that
Like,
makes total
do you
sense.
not have any other way to
He doesn't have syringes, and if he did, they wouldn't be
He
sterile.
does have syringes. He can literally holding a dart, just go boop.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you're worried about it being sterile for a person you're about to burn
If I could-
their flesh off.
If I could choose
Turn them into a
how
skull.
to go, it would be Ray Fiennes blow darting me.
From behind. When he continued to blow dart.
But I thought that was all very beautiful. And when he makes the diagnosis and she's like, I know, everyone knows, we should have told you. Like, I thought that was such a beautiful moment
Yeah,
because
I
people
agree.
really keep children in the dark around illness.
Yeah.
And in this instance, look, this kid's gone to extremes to find a doctor for his mom. And he has that, that childish urge to see a doctor and say, oh, well, the doctor will make it better now.
I
and
agree.
He's like, I can't make it better. And the kid has to realise. I thought it went a little bit too quickly, though, in the sense of, I understand that he sedated the kid, right? Because the kid wouldn't have let him. But I felt like after he...
Sedated him and then handed him a baby.
Well, yeah, oh God, let's get to the baby in
Yeah.
a second. But I felt like then after he blow darted Jodie Comer, he should have let the boy sleep with her for the night. Like, he just comes back with her skull.
Here she is.
It's like, the way you need to see somebody who's died, like to grieve. And it's just like you wake up.
Give him one more day with her.
Yeah, you wake up and here's your mum's skull.
I think he suspected that this. I don't know. Look, we could say
Yeah.
this is probably the most opportune moment. If you wait till the morning, he's going to whisk his mom away. She'll also forget.
No, I said no. I mean, he should have still killed her then, but he should have let the boy see her dead.
Yeah.
Before he
right, I
burned
see.
her. Like, it's just there was no need.
No,
like,
here she is. She's a skull now.
yeah. The baby thing was fascinating. Obviously, the alpha was the dad. He's impregnated another infected person, and he had some then territorial desire to find his baby because he was really hunting that baby down.
Yeah.
So that was all really interesting, and I like how they hark back to the original of Cillian Murphy's shopping bag, and this boy's going around with the shopping basket with the baby in it.
Yeah, that was
I
interesting.
thought that was cool. We need to get to the ending though.
Before we do, just on that note, I think I was really impressed at the emotion that this movie was able to produce.
I was bawling
And-
crying at all the Ray Fiennes, Jodie Comer
Yeah,
stuff.
I think it was really, and what's interesting is that having just watched 28 Days Later, when you've got Alex Garland and Danny Boyle like 20 years ago, really in there more, much earlier in their careers, you can, and that movie I don't think manufactures any emotion.
No.
It's just spectacle and
And it's not
intrigue.
trying to
and
either.
action. No, it's not
Yeah.
trying to. Well, arguably it does try in some places and fails. So you can really see the evolution of them as writers and directors. Anyway, the ending I think is a disaster.
Because I think I love the boy bringing the baby back, leaving the note,
That's fine.
and
End
leaving.
it there.
I love that because I love the idea of the boy saying, here's a baby, you need to look after it. Obviously there's no baby formula, you need breast milk, right? And I just love the idea though that he was like, and fuck you, Dad.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. And
Well,
I
this
like to see him, and I just wanted to watch the boy walk off in the distance. That's all I wanted from the ending.
This is the theme. I think the theme here is this boy is rejecting traditional toxic masculinity, and he's carving his own path.
I think that's a theme. I also think he's just been through such a profound life change, and he just doesn't trust his dad, and he needs to forge his own path now. He's very
Yeah.
young to be doing it, but like most people leave home and forge their own path. And I think as idyllic as the kind of island setting is, it would be incredibly claustrophobic to grow up there.
But then Jimmy Savile and the team come along.
God, what was this?
I mean, look, we quickly just read up on this.
Because I was so confused by the ending that I said I can't even talk about it until I do a quick Google as to what the hell I was
So
watching.
this is fully their intent. This isn't just like, oh, they look a bit like Jimmy Savile. So Danny Boyle and Alex Garland have decided that in this world, and this is what I did find was interesting was, oh, this is the kid from the beginning who I assumed for the whole movie was Aaron Taylor Johnson. Mm-hmm. And I think the
didn't-
movie wants you to think that.
I didn't assume anyone was the kid, to be honest.
Well, when you start on a kid, that's your protagonist. And then you go through a whole thing with them, which, by the way, we didn't even talk about, but is an incredible opening scene. And then you cut to Aaron Taylor Johnson cooking in a thing. You're like, the movie's telling you, the editing is telling you, that's the kid, 28 years later, right? And I don't know, message in if you were on the same wavelength as me. But so I thought that was an interesting rug pull, firstly, to be like, oh no, this is the kid you forgot about because we showed you a different family, and he's going to be important now when we brought him back. So
But before
whatever.
we get into this
I'm
kid,
fine
though-
with that.
Okay, but before we get into
Yeah.
this kid and what happens next, even if they hadn't done the Jimmy Savile thing, I just thought it was a bizarre way to end a film.
Yes.
Where this film is...
film's
God
over.
help me, I can't remember this kid's name, but it's his journey, right?
Max, was it?
This film ending on him leaving home, bringing the
Spike.
baby.
Spike.
Whatever. That was his film. And then to suddenly have these fucking Ninjago crew come in,
It's just...
and then the film ended, and honestly, I was just sat there going, "Huh?"
My biggest issue, I have two big issues with it, and we'll finish on the major issue. But the issue is the tone is completely different. The tone is from a different movie, which
I
is
think it will be the
clearly
next
the intent.
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's. I think the movie's saying there's another movie coming, and it's gonna have a totally different vibe and tone.
But it didn't
Right?
say that in the writing. So if you don't know there's another film and you think this is just the end of this film,
You need
You are
needed
very confused.
what you needed as a title card which says 28 years later will return.
no, truly, I do think you
In-
needed that.
yeah, probably.
Because without that knowledge, this is a baffling ending to a film.
Baffling, because you can't have a very grounded, emotional, moving story where the infected are like a real threat, and you know one arrow missed is going to kill you, and then suddenly you've got 6 tracksuit clad, wig wearing, ninja kicking people doing backflips and doing like, it's literally, this was it turned into a Quentin
Yeah,
Tarantino
it did.
movie. This was Kill Bill. And if that was the movie, fine, but that's not the movie. That's clearly the next movie, and Nia DaCosta's movie is gonna have maybe potentially over the top.
You know what?
But you can't cram it
No, you
into
can't.
it just like, it was 2 different
It
flavors of
turned
movie.
me off watching the next film, to be honest.
And also,
It didn't act as a tease for me.
I agree.
It acted as a deterrent.
But the big issue is they made a decision to, and it is correct in the world that Jimmy Savile, for our American listeners who might not know, was a famed TV presenter in Britain in the 80s and 90s who had a
was
show
the-
called Jim'll Fix It.
As he was a serial, disgusting, vile predator abuser, right, of children. He, at the time, the 28 weeks, days later would have happened, people wouldn't have been in the public consciousness.
This came out in the late noughties.
So the
I believe.
idea is that these people, Jimmy Savile will never have been unmasked as the monster he is
Yeah.
for these people in this world. Why the fuck are we exploring that? Of all the cultural standpoints where you could say X hadn't happened or Y hadn't happened, why the fuck,
Yeah.
now pardon my language, are you actually evoking a fucking disgusting, hideous sexual
Just
predator?
don't go there,
Yeah.
Danny Boyle. I'm sorry. Like, yes, it is perfectly
So
legitimate in the
offensive.
universe you have created, and it makes logical sense. You still don't need to put it on screen for us in the real world who did experience it.
And Dave,
to re-experience,
we
like,
didn't experience anything. This man has thousands of victims.
so exactly.
Like, it's the most
I think it's
tasteless,
incredibly insensitive.
disgusting, unnecessary, and just obnoxious. Like, was there nobody in the writers' room with them saying, lads, there's so many cultural references you could have from the 90s.
And people will say, oh, well, you know, people have explored the nature of evil and all sorts of things, and there, we should say Steve Coogan played him in a movie. Like,
Yeah, but
these
that's
are
a-
different things. Those are tackling that subject head on.
And that's also, you go into that knowing what you're going to watch.
Exactly.
This is not that. Anyway, I think we should end on that point. Great movie. Terrible ending. We've had loads of comments already from people who've kind of watched it before us, but do message us, let us know what you think. And if you think the ending was good, I would love to hear
I'm
from you
very
as well.
curious
Yeah.
to hear from other perspectives, yeah.
And
if
so-
you're that teenage girl who was in our screen,
I have no
Just
doubt you're
write in.
listening. But anyway, come and follow us wherever you are on social media. Email us thecinemile@gmail.com. But most importantly, come over to Patreon, because that's where we have all the fun, all the chats, all the TV reviews and retro movie reviews.
patreon.com/thecinemile, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
7, 6, 11, 5, 4, 17, 32 the day before.